iDiskiTV powered by World Sports Betting, iDiskiTimes.co.za, making his very first appearance on iDiskiTV. It's fake Guardiola. Lindo Lindo Pep. Welcome, bro.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For being
I welcome
here.
myself. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. Everyone has been telling me about you, and the signing has been made. So you guys welcome Lindo Pep. I told you yesterday, it's not going to be people you don't know. It's familiar faces. You're going to see another face as well. What did you make of the game, sir?
To be honest with you, when I look at the game, it's
whatever it is that you want to do.
To be honest with you, but since let me greet you.
Whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't even like the greetings, but I never stop the guys. Sure.
Sharp besine legend Benedict Petu riding Juniors Petu, okay, those introduce the other ones Petu Justice. But to be honest with you, it's a typical cup game. When you look at the team sheet, Supersport is 3-4-3. The Pirates plays their basic system, which is a 4-2-3-1. You look at the system, Supersport, they've got the 3 center back, but in the 3, the central player, which is Pool, plays like a libero, which is a creative midfielder. So he thinks like a midfielder. Every time in position of the ball, he joins into midfield to add as a 3, because in front of him there was Umagaman, and they've got this boy that comes from Denmark, Ukin and I. On the both wings, they've got Umashonisa. On the other wing, they had Chukamanja.
It was almost like a wing, but coming in.
Inverted. Inverted. And then they had Robla up front. For me personally, you look at the first half, Supersport didn't come here to win the game.
So you're convinced as well that that's not what they were trying to do?
No, not in the first half. I think Kevin Hunt was looking for control in the first half. He used a philosophy. It's an Italian philosophy. They call it the chain. Not to complicate it, but it's called the catenaccio, which is, they call it the chain. It's a very defensive. It's got its own defensive principles, which are very organized to be organized, but also it's got its own counter-attacking principles, which is the speed of movement, which is the precision, passing, which is the communication, dedication, and which is what I saw in the second half, from the Supersport United players, which is what the dedication was, the commitment.
So in this formation, there is no space for people to pass the player nearest to them, so that the player nearest to them can pass it back, so that there's progression in terms of how we get to the other side, to the other box, to the final third of the opposition. Why is it that the limitation of that formation is such that I pass it to Lindo passes it to Bradley Grobler. And we're living on a prayer. If he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it.
But to be honest with you, the first principle is it's precision passing. To be honest with you, the first thing is find the diagonal pass. So every time he plays as a central striker, but every time when the centre backs have the ball, it drifts wide in between the channel, full back and the centre back. But also, Cooks, I think there was the game plan by Kevin Hunt. He targeted Usetsane and Monyane, because he knew that
it's an inexperienced pairing.
Defensively, he knew that's why I Fagu Grobler in that space, and he won the header in the second half. But to be honest,
between them, it's the perfect execution of something he was looking forward to. Similar, if you've watched rugby, Urase Erasmus, they have these moments where they plan for a specific thing. Game. Rugby World Cup, and how they won it. They used to win it by 1 point in the semi-final, 1 point quarter-final, and then Sasha in New Zealand. But most of the time, the match relies on them planning for a specific moment. And I think, to compliment to Kevin Hunt, the specific moment happened when Tyson got the ball. It was a throw-in, Tyson gets the ball. And then the channel, Gamunyane and Sesane, given that they are inexperienced pairing, Bradley Grobler, and they found him, and he crossed. I don't know who scored it.
Mashonis. To be honest with you, they could have stopped that goal 3 times. Umbata loses the ball by playing a negative pass. It becomes a throw-in. They could have dealt with that throw-in better, because the throw-in is negative, because they take it back to Hlatswayo. There's lack of pressure on the ball carrier. That goal reminds me of the goal they scored against the Mamelodi Sundowns in the Supersport last year. Similar, identical goal. First half, Sundowns dominant. Second half, they come in. They play the very same diagonal ball. I think the last time it was won by Udzukamanji, if I'm not mistaken. And then Grobler scored the goal. But this time around, Grobler wins the header. Vincent Pule is at the right place at the right time. But to be honest with you, for me, I look at Kevin Hunt and I say, this is stubbornness for me. To be honest with you, you look at there's too many young players in the team. You look at the development in Supersport, you look at their GDL from under 13 to under 19. They've got a philosophy that they use, a Brazilian model, where they strictly want, it's ball orientated. I told you it's about ball mastery, it's about technical ability in terms of how those boys move the ball. It's about occupying space. It's about positional players. Well, by busy the possession in Spanish. In Spain, you see a lot of players be la pause more, especially more pegeli development. And then more peggy senior team is completely different. You look at that boy who plays as a left back. I'm very impressed by him. Uneo Orapo.
Oh yes, Neo Orapo. Yeah.
Incredible. I think
I couldn't locate his position throughout the game. His left back naturally.
Left back, top. Very impressed by him. Very energetic. Ukavi distance boy. Brings in very good crosses as well.
But you're making an important point that there seems to be a contradiction between what Supersport is doing. Gucci El Gauteng Development League and all its development structures and what the head coach is doing up top, which is a completely different game model.
Yeah, because to be they maybe excuse okay, we do sell players, but you look at those players, most of them they struggle when they get into other teams. Maybe Tito is an exception because you look at a player like Umasego, we had to detrain him with Sundowns. You understand? Because he was used to always fast football, decision making.
Get to the byline cross.
Get to the byline cross. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, I don't want to stick much to Kevin Hunt because he lost the game. Already he's down. Utso says I should want to kick a man.
When he's down, No, Utso, his coach is actually saying, when the man is down, you kick him. And Kevin Hunt totally red card foot. How did Orlando Pirates win this game?
To be honest with you, they came into the game with a 4-2-3-1 system. It's normally their base. They normally build 5 actually, including Sipo China, which is their most important player for me coming into this season, more especially in the consolidation phase. Things like a midfielder, things like a libero. Anyway, in modern football, the goalkeepers have become liberos, which are a deep lying playmaker in simple form. You understand that it's got unbelievable distribution. So they would have 2 center backs, and then they would push their fullbacks as high as possible. But today, they did something that's different, in my opinion. Something that we've never seen in Orlando Pirates. Instead of having a person, a technical player in that, because when you play with the 2, remember the responsibility of those 2 is that one of them has to be a technical player to create a third center back.
You're talking about the midfielders?
The midfielders.
The defensive midfielders.
Yeah, the defensive midfielder. Because if you check Supersport, same thing, same profile. You've got Upogenpool, you've got Umagaman with the 2. But
they're very similar.
Yeah, Upogenpool plays more as a third center back because he's more technical. But Pusha 2, and then I'm a fullback, a Kupo. So one of them has to be technical. But then they did something. Badlala, a progressive midfielder in that position. But I also think Rivero thought to himself, they're going to have so much of the ball. They don't need a third centre back, more especially in the consolidation.
So how do they deploy Umakaula and Umbata?
Umakaula was more advanced today. And then it was a surprise for me because one of the
So Makaula was in front of Umbata.
Umbata played more as a 6 today. And for me, Umbata, more especially Pirates My Petty Paul, one of his strengths, Umbata, is that in the consolidation phase, he's a master half 10 and progressive passing, which is a forward pass. But today, he played a little bit deeper. That's why Pirates was ineffective, more especially in the first 30 minutes of the game. Coming into the first half, yes, staying in the first half, for me, Pirates Petty Paul, they're dominating. They're ineffective 1v1 situations. But Umbata is too deep. And Umbata, when he has the ball, more especially Pirates My Petty Paul, they need him after Mela Champi center line because that's where he's effective from a forward pass, breaking the line. You understand? For me, there was no lines break. Tuma Kaula, he played well. But for me, I didn't understand his role in the game because for me, he's the one that had to stay Umbata, progressive. And then you look at a player like Usaling. Usaling played a different role because his profile normally with Pirates is always to run in behind. But today he was creating a double number 10, giving Umonyana the license to occupy.
Is that something he can do though?
Yeah.
Because Usaling, usually he relies much on his pace. Yeah. And of course, it's very incisive, very straightforward.
Yeah.
In order for him to cut in, he needs to be able to play football.
Yeah.
In order for him to be an additional, this is something you explained, which is very important about the role Kabelo Dlamini, which is when Orlando Pirates plays with Kabelo Dlamini, they almost play him as a fake wide forward.
Yes.
But he plays as an additional midfielder. Now, if you want that from Saleng, you're not going to get the best out of him. In fact, you could say then that if Pirates wanted Usaleng to be an additional midfielder, it's a coincidence that he scored those goals. He just found himself in a space to tap it in. He forcefully did the things he usually do, not what some Pirates wanted him to do.
But credit to him as well.
Yeah, for sure, obviously.
Credit, but to be honest, the reason for that detail is to create a 4v3 in midfield. Remember, Supersport, actually, today, Supersport actually had Umagaman, the boy from Denmark, and Upochenpool, but Upochenpool would drop to create a 3, right? When you check that, the Pirates, they actually want to sandwich Umagaman, Bamfunu Kumshang 2v1 between Usaling no Tito. So to create that double number 10 is to overload to create a 4v3. Every time, if Umagaman is a committer, to Umbata, Utito is free, Usaling is free. That's why Usaling, you would find him very effective today. I don't want to lie, I'm very critical of Usaling, man, because my foundation of criticism of Usaling starts from here. You cannot be an Orlando Pirates player, a winger, and you're not a national team player. That's where it starts. I think people must understand why and it's positive criticism and it's part of his support. You cannot play for your Orlando Pirates and you are a winger and you are loved by so much people and you are not a national team player. So, but today he got an assist, he got a goal. Decent performance today. You look at the Umfukeng Namhlanje Ntwana Yethu. It's going to be a very big season today. Off today. Yeah. I love Umbata, to be honest with you. Yeah, I love Umbata, but in the first half as well, off.
But you were talking about Umufukeng first. What was your observation about him today?
Trying to do too much for me. We are dribble magmela pass, we are pass magmela minus. I think the first chance he got, because Manga Cheka, the first chance of the game came in the 3rd minute. Not in the 3rd minute. Lautito is the energy generator. Like Kibela corner, but
that was a great move.
Great move. Got in the box. I think after that, he dropped his head a little bit for me. But I just felt like he did too much for me today. And then to be honest with you, the Pirates would have won the game even in the first half. They created so many opportunities. I think the first one was from Utito and energy generator Kibela Ushumisi game by a connect, by a link Skupini, but only chance Mabasa 10 box in as well. That's another half chance. They got so many half chances. Utito, there's a one also nearer to the box.
Even Umufukeng hit, there was a shot that he hit and then Ukos saved it and it hit the post as well, Umufukeng. So there was, I agree with you, so many half chances for Orlando Pirates. They could have won the game inside the game as well. There's a potential contest. Now, we've spoken about, we don't want to confuse people too much with tactics. There's a potential contest with the strikers. And I think there's a in South African football, there's straight line thinking. Akakorang Mabasa, ukorile Makgopa. Therefore, Makgopa must play the next game. What would be your preference, Wena? There's Lepasa, there's Mabasa, there's Makgopa. Of course, Mabasa having the advantage of being a top scorer last season. He's a tried and tested player. What would be your preference thinking about the formation that Orlando Pirates plays as well?
To be honest with you, this is why I say Orlando Pirates plays different in each and every game, because they use different profile of players. The profile of Ulipasa is he's more of an out-and-out striker. He's the one who's running my channels, getting into the left channel, right channel, dropping into midfield at times. And then you will find a profile like Mabasa, who's more of a box striker, who pins the two centre-back backs. So I think the profile of how big teams play recently is they want to pin those two centre-backs, because already those teams are playing a low block. So they want to create possibilities and options in between gule base lazy actually, where in between a full back and center back. So that's why they use Mabasa, because they feel that they want to create a 1v1 situations. Because remember, they are not overloading. They overload ama sides ngama full back atekayo. They bring in Umfukeng into the half space. So that's where the spaces are actually. Understand? So if he pins them there, that's those pockets, those lapagula consideration phase, Supersport. In that space, that's what they want. So for me personally, I like a striker like Makgopa. In my opinion, I believe I like. I'm not saying he's the kind.
We are making a direct comparison.
I don't believe that big clubs even though it's a trend I see. But I don't believe that big clubs should play with a box striker, in my opinion, because E -1.
Although you've just explained that you need a like Mabasa, you need him to keep Tyson busy. You need to keep so.
It's actually not busy, but it's to pin them back. It's to remember. There's what they're looking for. They are looking to create space for Tito, Umfukeng, Nosaling. Where is the space? The space is behind. If it's not behind, it's in between the midfield and the defense.
For sure.
Space.
For sure.
So if Ulentuzu Mabasa pins the defense back, they open that space for Tito in midfield behind the box. That's why you would see Tito getting opportunities to take shots outside the box.
That's why I'm saying that in your preference for Makgopa is almost in direct contradiction with the fact that Mabasa does that job. He does it well.
Mabasa does it well, but Makgopa does both. Makgopa can pin and he can drop as well. To have that option
but his dropping is lacks discipline. So he finds if we had video, I would show you so
Yeah.
many different
Yeah.
moments where Enzo makes this point because we watched them the whole season.
Yeah.
All of the matches, all of the Orlando Pirates matches, where you find him in spaces where he does not necessarily need to be there because it's ineffective for you to keep the left back busy.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for Orlando Pirates as Makgopa. Mabasa knows that I need to be where the box is.
Yeah.
Whether it's just in the box or slightly outside, but I need to be where I can be effective, even when there's an opportunity to goal score. But let's answer this question straightforward.
Yeah.
What's your preference with those strikers and why?
Like I said, I judge players based on in big games. And Makgopa always plays for Pirates in big games. When they play against the Sundowns, he plays. Because I feel he does what the coach wants. Because remember, you cannot just do one job, more especially in a big game. For me, I would prefer striker Semali, to be honest with you. Go Pirates. I know I like Makgopa. I don't know what's happening with his contract. Maybe Makgopa has a must-play contract, but I like his striker Semali, Lipasa. But looking at what they have now, I would opt for Makgopa.
Even with Mabasa's goals?
Even with Mabasa's goals, yeah, 100%. I mean, ngishilo last season ngathi bazomphaca. I'm not saying whatever, but for me personally, he hasn't proven for anything to me. I know he's the former top goal scorer in league and all of those things, but for me, he still needs to do a lot. Most of those goals were Tolegu Swallows anyway.
But he made impact at Orlando Pirates. He's better than Makgopa. Like he is objectively better than Evidence Makgopa. Objectively, he's better than
It's a game of opinions.
But objectively, not subjectively.
Yeah,
He's objectively.
yeah.
If you put the one next to the other and say
Yeah.
score goals, the primary job of a striker,
Yeah.
he's better than Makgopa.
He's better than for sure. But in modern football, Makgopa does more than what Mabasa does.
Well, we're gonna be here for the whole season for 10 months.
Yeah.
I hope we'll see
Yeah,
you, Makgopa.
yeah.
I'll show you. Like the nice thing about
Yeah.
when we watch matches is that we communicate. Like we speak more than we actually watch the game. You will see. So we'll remind you because it's always pinpointing. Like you see where the striker is.
Yeah.
You see that he's in the half of the opponents. But anyways, thank you very much to Lindo. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. Lamadoda kuzawafumana qho apha ku-iDiskiTV nale indoda izawungena ngoku uzayifumana qho apha ku-iDiskiTV ubaxelele phaa ku-comment section uba uyabathanda uyabalandela, you like and follow their content and comment on their content. If it's doing well, these brothers will be with us for a very, very long time. I have a very good feeling that we're going to be here for a very long time. This may be one of the last few times you see them in Sundowns shirts though. I need to get them that iDiskiTV shirt. iDiskiTV, Diski Times, all sports betting. Thank you for watching us.